All right, welcome everybody. All one of you. That one is my tester, but that's fine. We are going to take and introduce some basic stuff with Science on a Sphere. My name is Ron Proctor. I am a Science on a Sphere operator for an organization. I am doing this on my own time, and so I'm not representing my employer right now. And just doing this to help out the Science on a Sphere community because we are just so busy at work with a whole bunch of other stuff that I would love to get a workshop put together for y'all, but I don't think I can pull it together. So I'm just going to do it live, and we'll leave this up on the internet for you to hopefully get some use out of. So let's just quickly look at Blender. If you haven't installed Blender yet, you want to go ahead and do that. You can go to blender.org/download to install Blender. It's free. Current version, I believe, should be 4.4.3, and it should have this cat on it. And mine looks a little different from the default. Let me set this to the default settings. And when you load the factory settings with Blender, it's going to look like this. And you got your default cube, you've got your camera, you've got a light. Over here on the right, we're going to take a little turn around this scene here. Over here on the right, you've got a few buttons. Let's start with this funny looking thing up here. This is your view, your 3D view control, your 3D tripod. You can click on that and drag it to move your 3D view around. You can also click on the individual dots to get a straight on orthographic view from whatever one you click on. So for example, if I clicked on the Z, I get to see the XY plane. If I click X, I can see the YZ plane. Pretty nice. Now over here I have the hand lens. I can take and click on that. I can roll, or I can also roll my scroll wheel up and down on my mouse, but I can also click and drag on that hand lens and move it up and down, and I'm zooming in and out of my scene. Click on the hand itself, and I am panning left and right, up and down in the scene. And these are really important to get these movements down because you want to be able to see well so that you can navigate your scene when you're setting up stuff in 3D space in Blender. The camera view, also very important. We click on that camera right there. It's going to take you into the camera view. So the camera is right here. That's an icon in the scene that represents the perspective of the camera. It can be moved, and we can look through the camera perspective here. We can also lock the camera to the view. This can get a little dangerous. You want to be careful with this, but I've got the lock turned on right now. And when I change the view with this tool up here, I'm actually moving the camera. And to prove that, I'll click on the Z. Oh, whoops, that actually didn't work. Let me go back there and see if I can move up above and just get up above the Z axis. I'll click the lock again to turn it off. And let's go out of the camera view. And now we'll see the camera is up above the cube. So that's one way to move your camera. What's some other ways to move your camera? or other things in Blender. Let's look on the left-hand side now. We have a whole bunch of tools over here. We have our selection tool. That's this top one being selected here. Hold down a long click on it. You can see there are several different selection modes. We're going to stick with box select for now. There's a cursor tool. We're going to skip that for now. We have our move tool. Let's use that move tool. Click. And we can move our camera up and down by clicking on the arrows. Important to click on those arrows, because if you just click on the camera, you're moving it in screen space. And it can be hard to tell if you're going to put it right where you want it. So if I was trying to set it right on top of that box, because we're working in 3D, it's kind of hard to see. If I wanted to put that right on top there, but if I constrain to the X or Y direction, it makes it a little easier to tell what I'm doing. As I'm working, you'll see I will often take and I'll look around my scene. Now, there are mouse equivalents to what I've been doing over here. There is right-click drag, or excuse me, middle-click drag. So your middle click is like you take that scroll wheel on your mouse, you click it down and drag it. And that's the same as coming up here and dragging this thing. Or you hold down Shift key on your keyboard and drag that middle, do that middle click drag. And that's the same as doing the hand pan over here. Let's take and rotate this box now with the rotate tool. Let's rotate along the x-axis. The x-axis is red. I'm going to click on that red arc. I'm going to rotate. I'm going to show you a trick. The farther away you get from that thing, the more fine control you have. Try that out. Get farther away from it and notice that you can get finer control over that angle. And that's just because you're farther away, you're subtending a smaller degree of arc for a larger motion. Scale tool. We're going to take and modify the scale of this thing. Now this is one where you might actually want to scale uniformly, and where you would click and on one of the circles, either the small circle or the big circle, click and drag, and that will scale the box uniformly in all directions. Or if you want to scale just in one direction, you can scale on one of those sticks. Now, real quick, we have a few more basics, and then we'll show you how to set up your camera to render in equirectangular space. So, over here on the right-hand side, we have our outliner, and I'm going to get rid of my little face over here. We have our outliner up on top. And that's a list of all the things in your scene. You can click on those and select things in your scene. You can double click and rename things. And down here, you can find the, what's this called? This is the properties window. And in the properties window, you have all kinds of information about your scene, about your blend file, about your render settings, about your output settings, scene information, all kinds of stuff, world settings, object info. Let's deal with that object info for a minute. So you're going to find yourself over here a lot. I like these numbers over here because sometimes I want to have really precise control over where I'm putting my objects and really precise control over how they're being managed or scaled. So like I can restore this back to its default state. 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, 1. But if I wanted to move that 1 to the left, I could do that. Or 1 up, I could do that. So that's a place where you can go to punch in the numbers and get real precise about things. I know some of y'all prefer to have it that way. Okay, now we are going to set up this camera to be a camera that will render for your science on a sphere. We're going to do that right now. So what I like to do is I like to get the camera right in the center of the scene. That's just my proclivities. So let's take and move this box. I'm going to take that camera. I'm going to use my numbers over here. I'm going to zero it out. 0 tab, 0 tab, 0, 0, 0, 0. Whoops. Let's see. I got that all zeroed, except I do like to have it pointing out along this y-axis. For whatever reason, I like to do that. So we're going to take the x-axis and we'll rotate that 90 degrees. So see what those numbers look like. Get those numbers looking the same over on your side. And your scene should look a little bit like this. Now these next steps are very important. So we want to make sure we follow along. And it's okay to pause and go back if you need to. First, we're going to go to the render settings, render properties. We need to change our render engine from Eevee to cycles. If we don't do this, then bad things will happen, and we'll be very sad because then we won't have the options that we need later in the camera settings. So we want cycles. For our science on a sphere, resolution is going to be a 2x1 rectangle. So in our case, where I work, we have a 2048 by 1024 image that we feed to our science on a sphere. Some of y'all are going to work where you have 2 times that. And Blender's kind of cool. You can actually put expressions in. So I could put a ×2 here. Isn't that neat? ×2. So you could do that if you want to, but I'm going to Control-Z both of those. I only need 2048 by 1024, plus that'll render faster for me. So that's what I'm doing. My frame rate. I normally will use 30 frames per second. Frame start and frame end, that will depend on how long I want this thing to be. My output, if you go to temp, you're going to have a hard time finding it. So I changed that to //frames /frame _. Or you can just click this file and navigate to a place for it. If you put that double slash, what that'll do is that puts it right next to your blend file. So wherever you save your Blender file, it's going to put a frames file in there when it comes time to render your frames, and it'll just put it in there right next to your blend file. Easy to find. I don't need alpha for this job, although you can make it alpha if you want. Normally I just do RGB. Pings are good for me. Color management. That's going to follow the scene, although let me go back here. Let's scroll down here where it says color management back in the render settings. I want that to say standard. AGX kind of messes with the colors a little bit, in my opinion. I like to keep the colors on the standard because it doesn't mess with them as much. Okay. Now we still haven't turned this camera into a equirectangular renderer yet, but it's time to do that now. Let's go to where it says to this little camera icon here. Make sure your camera is selected. Click where it says perspective. Come on down to panoramic. We're gonna have a whole bunch of options here. We're just gonna use equirectangular right up at the top. And that should actually do it. Now, except for this clip start, clip end, you want to be aware of that. So clip start, or clipping is where your camera decides how much stuff it's going to take and render. And that's the distance. So it's going to clip out anything that's closer than 0.01 meters or 0.01 units to the camera center. And it's going to clip out anything that's farther than 100 from the camera. And you might want that to be more like 1,000 or maybe even bigger. So if you find you've got some stuff out there and you're not seeing it in your render and it's kind of far away, you might want to make that a bigger number. Okay. Now let's check and see what this camera view looks like when we go to render preview. We can go to view and let's see. So I like to show how to do it. I always do it a different way, but never mind, just kidding. We're gonna go over here. Let me show you this. Back out of the camera. Right up here we have these 4 balls. We have this wireframe, which shows the scene in wireframe mode. We have solid, which is what we've been doing so far. We have material preview, which is just what I said it is. It's a material preview. And we have render preview, which is going to give you a preview of what is going to be rendered. Now, if you're not in the camera view, you don't get to see the special equirectangular effect, but let's change that now. So we're going to click on the camera icon. And that doesn't look too different yet, but look close. And you can see that that cube has a little bit of a curve to it, but let's add a few more cubes to the scene. Let's click on the camera icon once more to go back out. And let's click this little Z dot. I'll show you how to duplicate now. Click on the cube. We're going to do Shift D. Shift D for duplicate. Shift D. Move your mouse. And you'll see it's kind of stuck to your mouse. Click to make it stick. And we'll just duplicate a few more times with me. Shift D to duplicate. Click to make it stick. Shift D to duplicate. Move your mouse. Click to make it stick. Shift D. Move your mouse. Click to make it stick. Shift D. Move your mouse and click. Shift D. Move your mouse and click. Let's look at this from a sideways perspective now, and let's move some of these up and some of these down. And now let's test our view. Now we do have equirectangular view. This is seeing all around. And now click on that little lock. Let's try moving the camera around. Look what happens. Isn't that cool? So now you've made an equirectangular camera in Blender. Big deal. So what? We want to make a scene in Blender, right? Maybe I don't want that background to be gray. Well, let's deal with that first. Let me turn off my camera lock, because that's dangerous, like I said. I'm going to stay in my camera view, though, just for now. And let's click on this world icon and see if we can do something about that background. What background color do you want? Maybe some nice blue? Or I often go with black because I'm a planetarium person and that's I live in the dark. You can also click on this little dot and you can check out the checker texture. Whoa. And you could take and make these two different colors, these two different color blocks here. Just click on the color block. And you can just pick a couple of different colors there. Maybe something dark. Yeah, I like that. All right, now let's move that, whoopsie. Click on that camera icon again. Let's try and click the lock. And let's move the camera view again and look at how that morphs and transforms. Okay, Ron, so that's cool, but I want this animated. I want to see this cool abstract art on my sphere animated. Okay, great, we can do that. Let's show you some animation basics now. Then we're going to click on the lock to get back out of our camera view. And we're going to do a couple of things here. We are going to... Oops. Yeah, there we go. I'm back. We're going to take and change Blender's interface here. We're going to change this to a 3D viewport window. So if you click on this little guy right here, this little guy in the corner, you can change that to a 3D viewport. And now all of a sudden you have another viewport to play with. Come up here to the top, you can roll your scroll wheel on your mouse to scroll back and forth. Go to render preview, go to your camera preview. You can just zoom in on that a little bit and just let that cook over there. Okay, now over here, we can go to a more simple, either wireframe or solid view mode, and we can play around with the camera. And then we can see the results over here kind of in a live preview. Also, by the way, this is a good time to save. So let's do that real fast. Let's go ahead and save. That's file, save. Not like what the kids do these days on their phones where everything's just automatically saved. You have to do it old school. File, save. Pick a place to go and save it. We'll go to the desktop. I'll just call this SOS demo. And go ahead and save it. All right, now. Let's go back to where we have our numbers here. And it looks like I'm in the way again. I'm going to hide myself again. Over here on the right-hand side of the numbers, you see some little dots. And if you click those dots, they turn into diamonds. And if you click them again, they go away. Those are what we call keyframes. So here's something you can do, is you can take and you can set your timeline, let's say to maybe 20. We'll say at frame 20, we're going to set kind of a schedule here. So at frame 20, I want the camera's location to be about here, which means I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click on these dots, and that sets the keyframe for that time. You see this diamond right there. Now, we can also set rotation keys. You can click those dots, or we can use a keyboard shortcut. I can use I for insert key. And this will pop them in there for the whole shebang. So I tapped the I key, and that's what turned all those yellow. So now, do I have animation? Not yet, because animation is a difference between two different states. So right now I just have those conditions at frame 20. Let's go to frame 80, and we'll do some motion, and we'll do some rotation. Oh my, that'll be quite a bit. And we can either click those diamonds, or we can tap the I key, float your mouse over these numbers, and tap I. Blender pays attention to where your mouse is, and that's where you're talking. So it's like having a megaphone in your hand. Wherever your mouse is wherever the keyboard shortcuts are directed. So let's see how our animation worked out. Pretty cool. These keys down here are movable. So if I move them farther apart, that makes the animation go and take longer. These keys are also duplicatable, so if you remember our Shift D duplicate trick, we can do that down here as well. So click on this one to select it, Shift D, move the mouse all the way over here, click to make it stick. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, we got kind of a washing machine kind of loop situation going on here. So actually, that's not a bad first project for your sphere. You might just want to have some party time loop situation going on. Okay, great. Well, okay. How do I render that? Time to render. Let's go and look at that. Clicking on the output settings now, we're going to scroll down to where it says output. Remember, we set our /frames/frame underscore, and that's going to set up a directory called frames right next to where I saved the blend file. That's going to be on my desktop, as that's where I saved mine. And inside that directory, you'll have all your frames will be named frame, followed by an underscore, and then a number. And then we can take that and put it into a video editor, or with Science on a Sphere, you can just play your frames sequentially. So the next step to render is to render. So I recommend saving. So you go to File, Save, and then just go to Render, and then Render Animation. This is going to run through the animation. There's, you'll notice this takes quite a while sometimes. So there are some tricks you can do to speed this up. And in fact, I left mine with some settings that are a little slow. Let's see how long this first frame takes. It's taking forever. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to escape. to stop it. Hopefully I didn't freeze my system while I'm trying to stream and render at the same time. Alright, let's see what happens if I go over here. Let's try to tune up the render settings to make this go a little faster. We're using Cycles, which is Blender's ray trace renderer, and a ray tracer is like really realistic, but it can be really slow. So with the ray tracer, you can turn stuff off to make it go faster, but you'll have a less realistic looking render. But that's no big deal usually, because it still looks pretty good usually. So let's go to where it says render under noise threshold. I'm going to change that from that really small number to a 1. We're using a really big angular size here, and that's why I think you can get away with that sometimes. I'm going to turn off denoise just for our demonstration purposes, although you might find that you like that. Experiment with it. Path guiding might help to make your render go faster. In light paths, we can actually turn these down. You can see up here some of the consequences. It's making it look less realistic, but not terribly so. So let's see if that renders better, faster. Well, at least faster. Faster is better. Hey, that was pretty good. Last one that rendered in 6.92 seconds. So not too bad. So just remember there's a few things you can do to tweak your render to make it go faster or slower if you want it to be more realistic. Okay, so we got our renders happening. Let me see here. I'm going to look at the frames. There's the frames coming out. Okay, so that's cool. I'm not going to make you sit and watch all these render. Let's do some more stuff now. Let's see, I'm going to escape. And let me take and I'm going to kind of reset the scene. Let's show you how to delete stuff. You just select and you can tap the X key on your keyboard. X will delete. You can see it's asking, you want to delete this? You say, yeah, delete it. Or there's the delete key above your keyboard. Arrow keys also works. Not the backspace key, that's different. The delete key doesn't ask, it just deletes. Let's reset this camera back to its basic position, or its starter position. Oh! There we go. Now, let's see, I wanted that rotation X to be 90. Alright, now watch what happens if I move this timeline. Hey, it's moving again. Why is that? Well, I have animation keys, silly. I have to delete those keys too. I can delete keyframes. Click that, delete. Click that, delete it. Okay, now I gotta reset this again. Okay. So science on a sphere also, gosh, it sure is nice to put words on that thing, isn't it? So let's do a thing where we put some words on the sphere. Now, this is a little bit tricky. We have to think. We have to think outside the sphere and inside out of the box with this. So let's take and show you just how the text objects work in Blender. Actually, let's show you how to add objects in Blender. I haven't even done that yet. Get rid of this light. Let's add a text. We go to add text. And now that we've added the text, I want to move it there. And I want to rotate it. Oh, I want to have it rotate just in increments of 90 degrees, or increments of 5 degrees, so it stands up at 90 degrees. I can hold my control key to get more control as I'm rotating. Hold control, it'll increment in 5 degrees. So you can stand it right up for 90 degrees there. Okay, so there's your text. Oh goodness, that's big. You can either move it farther back, or you can scale it down. You can scale it with the scale tool. And remember, with our science on a sphere, that's we're going to need. Honestly, the text is going to have to be pretty small, like that, to be reasonable on the sphere. But for us to be able to see what we're doing, I'm going to make it kind of big. We can always scale it again later. Okay. We need to edit the text. So in Blender, we have a thing called edit mode. And most of the time we're in object mode. But we can change object mode to edit mode. And so we can say edit mode. We can change this to say whatever we want, like hello world. Hello world. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have a text properties window that we can use. And let me get rid of my face so you can see what I'm doing. We have all these different settings where the text can be. We have an offset. You can mess with the way that it tracks with the font. We have extrude, which makes the text deeper, which may or may not be desirable with your science on a sphere presentation. You can, what does taper do? I don't even know. I don't usually use that. Bevel, we can bevel the text. Let's see, normally I would, let's see, let's give it some depth. Yeah, okay. So you see that bevel on it. And then, this is kind of neat. If I take and adjust this curve, it's like I'm a very good woodworker, and I have changed the shape of the bevel. Yeah, anyway. So that's a bevel. Make it round and chonky. We can turn that back to 0. You got your usual texty stuff like justification, center, vertical, make it to the middle, which I find very handy for what we're about to do. So that's where I'm going to put it. We have character spacing, which is fun to animate. Oh, and by the way, you know that trick where you float your mouse over and hold, or not hold, but tap I to insert a key? That'll work on like any value in Blender, just about. So you can animate all kinds of things in Blender just by using the knowledge that I will animate. I to insert key. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, take that back there. And let's see, font. The way to do fonts is you have to know where your fonts are, and that's starting to get hard to find. So what I do is I download the font, I put it where I want it, and then you click this folder thing and go find your font. And that's where you pick your new font if you want a different font than the default. Okay. So we have our hello world on our sphere. That is huge. We would probably want to make that smaller. I'm using S to scale it down. The other problem is if I render that out, it's also very dark. So I need to brighten this up. I can do that with a central light. We could, oopsie, I need to not use keyboard shortcuts so much while I'm teaching. So we go to add, and we go to light, and you could use a point light, and put that right in the middle. Go over to your light settings, and crank that thing up. Let's see if that worked. Oh, my hello world is so small. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Oh, this is not a very good camera preview. What's going on here? Oh, my mistake. Okay. Just so you know, so in Blender it's going to overlay the interface. There's interface overlay is what I call it. And that's where you select a thing and it has an outline, and so that's kind of what I was seeing over here, and I wasn't seeing the true preview. So there's a way to turn off the overlay, and that's this thing right here, this little ball on a ball, and you can click that, and it'll give you a truer camera preview without all the overlays. Just a nice little trick for you guys. Okay. So we have this hello world, and let's say on our sphere we want to duplicate that all the way around the sphere. We want to see that on all four sides of the sphere. We could take and duplicate this all the way around. We could take and use our move tool. We could use our rotate tool and do all that work. It'd be kind of a pain in the butt. Or this is a time when we can use this this cursor to make our lives a little easier. Right now you see that cursor is in the middle of the screen. It can go anywhere. And if I use, there's a little hidden menu here. Did you see that? Tap N for numbers. This is the numeric menu. And right here where it says view, if you forget where that is, just look for that little tiny arrow there and click it. And then go to view. You can take and put your 3D cursor at 0, 0, 0. Now we're going to use it there. We're going to take our transform pivot point, which is up here. And we're going to change it from the median point, which is what we've been doing so far, and we're going to use 3D cursor instead. So now, all of a sudden, our rotations are always centered on wherever that guy is. So we can do this, we can do a Control D, and I just did a right click, also the same as escape, and now I can just move that thing right around like so. Hold Control to get some more control. Now, if I want to select both of those hello worlds, hold Shift, click the other one. Now you've got them both. Now do a Shift D. If I'm moving my mouse, say, okay, great. I'm moving my mouse, I see they're moving. I don't want them to move, I want to rotate. So I could say R. They say, okay, they're rotating, but they're not rotating the way I want. I could say, okay, they're rotating, but now I want Z. Now they're rotating the way I want. There we go. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Let's see how the render looks. And let's take and remind ourselves that this is actually equirectangular. Yeah. Okay. We got it all warped and stuff. Cool. Okay, so that worked. Let's do a little more of an advanced trick now with our text. Let's say you wanted to do a long sentence that wrapped all the way around your sphere. And you really need it to curve and go around your sphere. So let's say, hello world. My name is Ron Proctor. I'm a Blender person who likes chickens and science in a sphere. All right. Oh, I misspelled chickens. Hang on. Chickens. Okay. Okay, so if I render that, that is cool looking but hard to read. So what I need to do is I need that to wrap around, all the way around in a circle. I can do that with a modifier. So let's set up a modifier now. We're going to do that modifier in 2 steps. Let's put this away. We're going to do n to hide that. N for numbers, remember, is how we bring that up and put it away. Kind of handy, good to know. Okay, modifier is going to use a curve circle to curve this text around the sphere. So let's add a curve circle. Let's let that be a NURBS circle, because they're just smoother. And we're going to S for scale, make it bigger, make it maybe about that big. Maybe we'll make it bigger. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Now we're going to modify the text. The text is going to use the circle to inform its shape. So we go to the wrench, which is where the modifiers live. We're going to click on Add Modifier. We're going to deform curve. And now we will go to Curve Object. NURBS circle, it's the only other object available. And it kind of worked. So, let's turn this back to median point. If I move this back toward the center, then you'll see that kind of controls how far away that is from the circle. I can even overshoot it. And now let's rotate our, whoop. Maybe if I move the circle. Oh my. Well, that's pretty spastic, but what I want to do is have that orbit around. I guess I could just rotate the camera. So I want to see. Okay, I'll just move the camera. RZ. There we go. So what's that going to look like on your sphere? Give that some thought. Because we have to think about how this composition is going to work. You know what? We could test it. We can test it with Blender. So let's take and save this one image. Save to the desktop. Let's call it sphere test. Now in Blender you can have more than one scene, which is pretty handy. And might as well save. Whoops. Yeah, I'll just save. Don't need to save as. Save. Now I'm going to add another scene. That's right here where it says scene. I can click this little paper on a paper and make a new scene. And there's options there. You have copy settings, linked copy, full copy. I just did a new scene. So this is just a new vanilla Blender scene with no stuff in it. That's fine. Let's make a new, whoops, add mesh UV sphere. I haven't even showed you how to do the basic stuff, like the other basic stuff yet. There's other Blender tutorials out there, you guys. I'm not the only game in town. So we have our UV sphere. When you first add a UV sphere, you have an opportunity down here to change some numbers, which I like to smooth it out a little. So I change this to like 64 and this one to 32 to see how it makes the mesh more resolute. And you can right click that, you can say shade smooth. That's pretty nice. Now we can pretend this is our science on a sphere. Okay, so let's click on this ball here where it says material, new, come on, and I want this to be an emission material. For the color, let's turn on render preview. For the color, I'm going to click on not the color block, because I can make that whatever color I want, but I could also make it a texture or a, an image texture is what I want. So image texture, and I need to go click open and then go find that picture I just saved. There it is. So even though that was bent on the how do I, there we go. So even though that was that image is bent on the render, once it gets mapped onto the sphere, it looks like it's nice and straight, or at least it looks like it's just kind of orbiting in a straight line. Pretty cool, yeah? Alright. Well, guys, I'm running out of gas. Does anyone have any questions? See, we got a few people on. I will probably do this again. And I will check out the video for questions later also if I don't get any tonight. not going to give you a recap. You can watch the video again if you want that. To change scenes, that's this button here. And it's kind of inside out with Science on a Sphere. So you got to think like you're inside of a ball, and then that image is going to be projected onto the outside of the globe. All right then. So I will check in for questions. Put those into the comments on the video itself. But for now, I'm gonna get ready for bed, so I can get up early and do lots of work stuff tomorrow. This is Ron Proctor signing off. Thank you for visiting with us this evening, and I hope that you will read all these music credits for all this wonderful music that we've been listening to. Thank you very much.